Hello, and thank you for being here. I'm so happy that you guys were able to come. Today, we're going to talk about chapter 5 of the book. It's all about project management, how to manage costs, and how to manage risk. That's at the simple terms. People think project management, like when I started in the industry, I started as a project engineer, assisting another project manager. And it was all about, people would call it paper pushing. But that's how people in the field, the ones that believe that because of them, the work is done. And it's true to a certain degree. But our industry is very paper driven, and there's so much approval and red tape. For you to do anything, you have to do a lot of work. And so I remember having binders of RFIs and submittals and schedules and very intense work. Without that, you can't build. So when I started, that was my idea of project management. You're managing paper. But the reality is that it wasn't not long ago that I always knew you got to manage the cost and you have to manage the time, right? Because there is a correlation, a big impact with the time. And I'm talking more on the not commercial, government work. Anything that has liquidated damages associated with it. And there's $3,000 penalty a day if you don't finish on time. But it could be more, it could be less, but still, it's a penalty. So you could do everything right in your mind, and you can still be paying liquidated damages. Because the burden, and this is one of the things that I believe at the fundamental level, we need to change in our industry. The burden of proof is the contractors. If somebody makes a mistake in the process, the contractor has to prove that they didn't cause it, because that's how risk flows. And a lot of people, until they're in it, they can see it. So not too long ago, in the podcast, Thriving in Construction, I had an episode with a very, very smart CPA that has been in the industry forever. And he said it in a very simple way. Construction is all about managing risk and managing profits. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, construction has a lot of pillars that so much has to happen right for you to make money in construction. Mm-hmm. That when he simplified it like that, one, it tells how much he knew. And the other one, it gave me a light as to, wow, if I can be really, really good at managing risk and really, really good and focus on profit, then I can win in this game. So the book has a section for that. And so today, my goal is to break that down in simpler terms. It doesn't mean that everything else is not valid. But to me, when we say your goal is to, my water, I gotta drink water with this. It's funny, it touched my feet, so it's like, remember, you gotta drink water. So at the very fundamental level, effective project management is about reducing risk and increasing profit. Some of us think we're not supposed to make money. Some of us are so scarce and in lack, especially those of us that come from Latin America. Money? Really? You're supposed to make money? Mm-hmm. And believe me, there's owners that they don't understand or they don't feel good when they realize you're making some profits. Mm-hmm. It's like they fight for you not to. So that's a sign. That's not the client that we want, right? We want clients that realize value has a price. You and I have talked about it. Mm-hmm. Some people have never experienced that. Mm-hmm. And it depends on where the journey has been. Anyways, and I have two amazing women here, professionals in the industry. I have an architect here, and we're gonna talk later, and one in the supplier area. So we're gonna talk more later and ask some questions. And this is so fun. I love having people here. It's better than looking at the camera. So managing risk, why? Because from the perspective of a contractor, whether you are a trade partner, you're a GC, everybody, you have a budget. You gave a price, and your price is a budget. So risk is anything that is not anticipated in your budget. Anything that is not in the drawing, quantified as a number, is risk. Right? Pandemic.
Right.
Can you price a pandemic? The impact of a pandemic? You can't. How can you price, an error in a drawing? You can't. How can you price if a trade partner didn't show up?
Mm-hmm.
How can you price if you forgot something? That is risk. Delays.
That's the word that, yeah.
Productivity. So anything that can reduce your cost to fulfillment and your profitability is risk. Now, how do you manage and anticipate that? You gotta get better at creating a process to do that from the beginning. And we, contractors, I think most of us, we're so optimistic that, we were so excited about a project and so excited about delivering to the clients at the highest level that we don't see anything wrong going on.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't. But it happens. And so those are sometimes the assumptions that cost us money. So, profit. Profit, we want to make sure that our actual cost is less or equal than the budget. So that would be a good job, right? What would you say? What do you think makes you happy at the end of a project? What makes you happy?
Profit, smoothing, customer service being up top, and yeah, making some money.
So if
happy client, I was gonna say
it.
Happy client, happy team, and not too many surprises that we couldn't manage well.
Which is risk for you, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because a happy client means repeat work.
That things went smooth, and when risk came up, we dealt with it professionally.
Yeah.
And we didn't lose too much money doing it.
Because things go wrong all the time.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But as long as your customer service is proficient and we respond smoothly, then we can mitigate. We can mitigate some damage.
So the other day when you guys came and we had this workshop with the different trade partners, we talked about change orders.
Yes.
And one of the things I talk about a lot is not doing change order work without an approval.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I mean, architects and engineers are much better at this.
Mm-hmm.
But contractors?
You don't want to do the paperwork.
No, I don't. They don't know. There's a concept, there's a belief, and it's an unconscious belief that if you confront with a no, right, they're going to be unhappy. Clients we don't know necessarily how to address this conversation and say it in a way without emotions and say, Mr. Client, I would love to do that for free. But I would be dishonoring the contract that you proposed for me to sign. Your contract says no change order work without a written approval. That's what the contract says. You want me to go against the contract? And I'm saying this now like this, but it was so hard for me to get to this point because I really at the core felt that I was going to get a client unhappy.
Yeah.
But the problem is that when we don't realize that profit is necessary for us to make our clients happy, finish on time and on budget, we don't do the trade. We don't shift that mindset. Sometimes it's at the price of a lot of money. So one of the things I want is for people not to think like that, because it's better to have those conversations early. And so what could happen here for this not to happen? Communication, delays, you have mistakes that are not addressed, timely communication, and everything in construction is about time.
True.
Everything. Yeah. Especially because we are measuring a period of time financially too. So what doesn't happen in the time that you estimated, because remember, you estimate a project with certain number of people on a daily basis, and it's supposed to be done in this time frame. So anything that delays the critical path, let alone all the other secondary path, but anything that delays the project, it's going to cost money. So now the question is, who pays for it? Who wants to pay for it? And of course, nobody.
Nobody.
So that's why I say the burden of proof is the contractors. And very rare, there are clients. I have to say that. There are clients that say, you know what, I know this is going to be additional cost. I know this is going to impact the schedule. Give me a change order. Give me a time impact analysis. Of course, due diligence. And let's talk about it and let's agree to a number. Those are the best clients. I love you. I love those clients because they respect. It's a respectable relationship. It's honoring each other. Mm-hmm. So same thing with trade partners. If as a general contractor we don't do that, then I'm disservicing my partners. Right. I can't honor them. And so what happens with public clients is that you are agreeing to something potentially verbally, it's not in writing, but these organizations, they change. And they tell you, what, you think I'm not going to pay you? You don't think I have word? You don't think I this and the other? And the next day they forget, they change, and they have, with a very nice face, they say, no, I'm not paying you. If you want to get paid, sue me.
Or the staff changes.
Or the staff changes. I used to be the head of construction for the city of Fort Lauderdale. And these people are good people. I'm talking about in general, people that work, but some of them are organizations that as a culture, they're accountable. Mm-hmm. If they pay you late, it's the way the culture is. But when the culture is not like that, it's very hard for them to do the right thing because, of course, they don't want to lose their jobs. Not everybody is in the position to risking their jobs for doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. Not everybody can do that. Mm-hmm. So it's for us to figure out who and what, as far as change orders, what do we allow ourselves to do? So I have here, the villain is anything unexpected. It's what's going to screw it. And there's so much that can go wrong. We talked about it, right? Delays. Cost control. If we're not controlling the cost, I don't know about professional services. Probably easier. But when you are controlling, if you're self-performing and you're controlling man hours, and it's a ton of people working on a project, that is not easy to do. Not easy at all. We know what it is to deal with people. Is it easy to deal with people?
No, not all the time. Not all the time.
Do you get your payroll done on time? do people give you your time on time? The hours they worked on a project?
100%.
All the time?
No.
You don't have to call anybody. You haven't done the time sheet.
Oh, I always have to call. Remember to punch it first?
Remember the time sheet? I want to pay you. Does that happen to you?
Yeah, but we put in systems then to protect. Yeah.
I get it. And we have to, but do we need you? We need to do that. Hey, I want to pay you.
Yeah, no.
So this is what we deal with, right? We also deal with this is another thing. A culture of excuses and complaints. And we have it here. We protect ourselves from excuses, complaints, assumptions, procrastination, negativism, victimism, and forgetfulness. Oh, why is the billing not in? Oh, this and the excuses. Our industry, I believe, I have to say that has to be one of the biggest industries in blaming.
Yeah.
Nobody dies if I put the responsibility on another. And because it's so litigious, people fall in a culture of protecting themselves and cover my, how do they say?
You're behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just covering.
Yeah.
And it's more, you spend more time covering you than solving the problem. We were talking about this. Right, Missy Beth? We don't want to do that because that's not efficient.
Right.
So we want to make sure when we're managing projects that the work is moving in the direction of how we planned it. The work is moving, the critical path. I always ask people, how's the critical path? Because that gives you the indication. And comparing that with the budget. How are we doing in terms of time? How are we doing in terms of cost? And to do that is easier said than done. The more complex the project is, the less. The other component is people, right? Because as business owners, of course, we delegate on people. But if we don't have the systems, it's very difficult. Because people, yes, there's people that you have to manage less, and there's people that you
need more.
Micromanage.
That need you more.
But micromanagement is also ineffective. So, if I was to boil it into three things: schedule, production, and cost. Schedule, like if I had to just have three dashboards: schedule, production, and cost, mirroring how they interact together. Create a dashboard for that. But remember, what can hurt you is the villain. The mindset, your mindset. Because you got to manage your expectations. The team's mindset. And how do we work on that? Let me tell you, mindset is huge.
Yeah.
Because the other day I told somebody in my team, that might be, we might need to send an RFI for that. Oh, but no, he didn't say that. Oh, really? So you can see in the response, there's hesitation.
Yeah.
So I've learned, I used to be more direct, like, gotta send it. Mm-hmm. You have to send it. But now I don't, because people resist. Mm-hmm. I've learned this through the days. People resist. So I ask, what's your objection? What can go wrong? So that gives me an opportunity. It gives them an opportunity to come back and say what really is really in their head. Because I don't want to put a gun in their head to do what I want. I want them to do it and train them in the process. Yeah. So what's your objection? Because the objection is, as leaders, what we have to manage. Mm-hmm. Is the objection. You can't force people to do anything.
Right.
Can you force your husband to do anything?
No.
You might want to try to influence them, but that's not what I want. I don't want to manipulate anybody. No. Because it's beautiful when somebody does it on their own. That's leadership. When you influence the thoughts, the emotions, the decisions, and the actions of a person. That is beautiful. Yeah. If you can do that, and when you're not around, they can do what you want them to do, it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. But first, you have to manage the objections. And you can practice in your house with your husband. Because the people tell you what they want. But sometimes we don't want to listen. So just ask, but from a beautiful state, not from stress. That's another thing that I think is huge. When I talk about mindset, I talk about the state of being, your emotions. how are you showing up? As an asshole? That you're not going to influence anybody.
Right.
Well, I talk like that because that's how you talk in construction.
No,
You know, I'm not going to make you waste time. But do you want to? Because, you know, there's one thing that I've seen a lot. I was talking about this in my gym today with my trainer. And when I started in construction, women, this is a while ago, a few years ago, women tend to have the tendency to become so masculine. I don't want to say a guy, but to the level of cursing and talking louder than the guys, kind of competing. That was not my style. Because I don't need to become, I have masculine energy like everybody else and feminine. But I influence more with my feminine without giving anything away. Right? So it's losing your power. And so mindset is huge. And that comes from emotions because we are our emotions. And the emotions are the ones that show up. They govern our lives. I heard Tony Robbins say that the first time I showed up in his environment, emotions run your life. So I've spent the last 6 years really working on diving into that to a point that I can handle crisis, big crisis, without losing it. And that's powerful. And in our industry, there's so much. I've seen people, you know, breaking holes on walls and men, you know, bruising. That's not leadership. And I really believe our industry has an opportunity to do it different. Because you know that construction is the second highest rate in suicide.
Wow.
And that's why.
Yeah.
Because of the level of stress that is created, unnecessary stress. Because a lot of it is just to prove that you are a big deal. Like what happened to me in Nebraska. Remind me to tell you that story later. In another video. So emotions, we talked about emotions. They can show up and they can affect us in our house. And we can do that, change who we are. And as women, we have women here in the studio. As women, and as men also, how important it is to change all of that when we go home. Because many times we come back from a stressful day. We don't know that the people in our house, you know, they have their own, they're not waiting for you to. And what we do is just affect our relationship, the things that we care the most about.
Yeah.
At the price of working hard, but we hurt them forever unless we change. So, what can hurt us? The villain, a plan, no plan. So we've learned that because risk, which causes a lot of stress, because risk is unknown, right? It really, you can assume based on the experience that you have, you can kind of try to guess at it and put a price to it and a plan around, which is important. But the more you plan, the better opportunity you have to finish our job with the reduction of risk and increasing in profit. At least protecting the profit that you say you're going to make at the beginning. So risk protection is a focus. I call it safeguarding the profit. You were supposed to make this amount. Well, guess what? You need to look at that in your dashboard all the time. Am I making that amount? That's easier said than done. Because you need systems. You need dashboards. You need other people to do it for you as you grow. So what kind of systems do we have? The next one is communication. It's underrated. Communications in the house, communication in the projects, tough conversations. Do not delay them. And I don't know about you, but forever I've delayed money conversations. Money has been the area of most weakness for me. You know, I've made money in my life, but if I had a better relationship with money, I would have made a lot more, which I'm sure is gonna happen even more. Because how do I make money? Working hard and driving, but from an emotional state that I didn't really want no more. Because you don't want to have money at the price of your health.
Mhm.
Stress costs your health. And to me, no longer that's a price I'm willing to pay. That's why I changed so much. We were talking about it, right? And when you change, everything in your life changes. And I guarantee you that's the truth. If you change and you stay consistent and disciplined enough, hands down, and it's so beautiful. Everything around you changes. The next one, we talked a little bit about it, dashboards. So systems, which we taught you. I know you're big on systems. Systems, processes. So people can do the work better than you. Sometimes we have people in our companies that they're so protective of being the one that knows how to do it. And I want to say around 2018, I learned about a concept. I had this issue with this person, very smart, super hardworking, but nobody else could shine. And everyone was wrong. And as founders, when we find a person like that, it's nice because, yeah, man, they're smart and they are smart. But they kill your company, they kill your culture, and you cannot scale. You can't scale on your own. You can't. So one of the hardest things for me to realize and learn, hero. We want to be aware of heroes. Right. We don't want to create them. And we want people that are excited. So we want people that work hard and they are committed to the company and they solve problems. But we also want them to be team people, that they are excited about seeing other people grow on their supervision. That's what we want. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that brings me to culture. What culture do we have? Because when a problem, I used to feel I'm really good for construction because I used to be one of those that focus on the problem. I can find the problems. I'm like, I'm so good at it. And I was. But let me tell you, it was I can identify a problem here, a problem there. But I could not see what was good. Yeah. And that replicates in your life. Because if you cannot identify what's working, you can celebrate. And if you can celebrate, you can appreciate. If you cannot appreciate, you can have gratitude.
Wow.
And if you can have gratitude, you cannot see the progress.
So just kick my butt. That is so true.
Yeah. So it's having that critical mind. It's a good thing, but if the critic, which is an expert, finding fault, cannot appreciate, not even you can handle you, let alone other people around you. Because you're going to be focusing, especially if you're paying money. You won't find anything good. And you know how I realize this? Sorry, I'm going to have a drink. It's alcohol. And this is like an energy drink, not energy, but vitamin drink that helps me with the hydration and that I've discovered, and fasting. I've been fasting the whole time. I actually like it.
Yeah?
All day?
No. I fast from like when I wake up, go to the gym until I eat 1 o'clock. It hasn't been difficult. And it's amazing because
it keeps you clear, right? Like,
yeah. Anyways, so what was I saying?
The negativity. If you only see things that are wrong,
right? It's painful because you never feel the progress. And what makes you happy is really seeing that you made progress. Because life is not a straight line. And if you are like us, high achievers, we want it, and we haven't had it today, you can wake up. And in when there's so much we don't control, if an owner doesn't approve a payment, it makes us unhappy.
Yeah.
If a change order hasn't been approved, it makes us unhappy. If somebody made a mistake that's costing money and it's on your insurance and you're responsible for it, that's unhappy. Anything that doesn't go right makes. If you marry the wrong client and you haven't been able to get rid of that, get a divorce.
Get a divorce. Yeah.
Divorces make you unhappy, and divorces make you lose money too. Have you experienced that? Anyways, so the culture of being able to solve problems versus focusing on the problem. So it's solution driven, not letting the mind stay with the problem. Because, the other day, I'm going to take my jacket off. I'm hot. And I'm never hot. And thank you guys for being here.
Oh, I love it.
It feels so much better to do it with people. Awesome. So being solution driven versus problem, it's night and day. Night and day. And when you solve problems and you are able to make a decision from the right state, you can take action. But what drives the change in our industry is the action. Because the decisions we make or decisions we don't make, it's what makes it different. If you don't make the decision when you can, as soon as you can, even if you don't know everything, it's gonna drag. And a lot of times, especially if it costs money, we don't have that muscle of decision making very strong, especially if we started the business, it's our livelihood, everything depends on it, my life depends on it. You're not able to make decisions, and that emotion is what keeps you behind. And then you ultimately have to pay the price. So I was going to give you an example, but it escaped my mind, so I apologize for that. Let's go to questions.
I have a question.
So we have a question, and then we're going to go to the questions that we have in the book, in the chapter 5. So to see, maybe we don't finish all of them because of time, but I really recommend that you get the time to do it, and also the other questions in the other chapter. So you have a question?
I do.
I have an answer.
In terms of risk, do you budget for risk? Is it a percentage? Do you tell the client, hey, you need to have a cushion in your own kind of budgeting? Do you put a dollar amount we know something's going to come up, and here's X amount of dollars that we're going to use to deal with that?
So great question. So at the time of bid, when we're pricing a project, we try to ask as much questions as we can to not have to budget. Because if you budget, the more you budget, the more money you put on the bid, and then you don't win.
Yeah.
Right? Because not everybody's gonna be doing this. The other thing is that you learn to realize that there's a risk here, or there's a confusion, but if you put money for that, you're gonna miss on the project. So you gauge on that. The experience helps a little bit, but at some point, yes, a good practice could be a percentage. And if you have a track record in your company, you can define
what that percentage
can be, that you at least don't have to get it from the profitability.
And I think sometimes we've just told the client something's going to come up, so that you're right, you don't put it in your contract, so you might not be apples to apples with someone else, but you have to communicate to the client, you got to keep a little bit of extra for the unexpected. Yeah.
A cushion.
Yeah.
Which some clients have it for change orders. That doesn't mean that they are easy to give it away.
Of course.
Right? But especially now, if we are doing a design build, which I prefer design build contracts than regular low bid, because low bid, and now we're much better at deciding which client we want or which ones we want. I don't care if I don't have work. I'm not working for you. I'm not. It's almost like if you're, I hate to put this example, like if you're going to bed with anybody, I just, no, I don't do it. I don't do it.
I think one of the things that we say to our staff is our definition of success is choosing your customer. Is not just they choose you, but you choose them as well.
Yeah.
Having that luxury is a true definition of success.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
You want to do business with people that are like-minded, that we share the values, we share the outcomes, that we're going to work together, and that when you're down, they're not kicking you, because life is not perfect, but you want to have people that you can, that there's respect in between everyone. It's a team sport. I really believe that.
Yeah.
And in design build, I prefer design build because you have the opportunity to evaluate the project better, to partner with the designer, and instead of having one against the other, partner with the designer. And the designers, some of them have a lot more experience, but they're not they're not builders. So builders have a different type of experience. So being able to have that communication between the architect and the engineer, it's amazing. We have been focused a lot on building those relationships, because when there is not a great relationship with the design team, it doesn't go well.
Right.
Because we've had projects where look, when the ego is winning, the project is not going well. It doesn't matter where it comes from. If it's me versus you and it's all about me, I blame you and I do everything right, you do everything wrong, that job is not going to go well.
Right. What do you think that stems from? Where in the process do you think the rivalry mostly stems from? Between architect and GC, or architect and supplier, or GC and supplier?
It's ego.
But where in the process do you think?
It's not in the process. So if somebody found a mistake, remember I told you blaming is a human emotion. And if you are not trained at, because it costs somebody money, or ego or pride. If you're not trained saying, you know what, you're right, let's see how we do it together. Or let's say the GC didn't price the work the way the architect intended it, right? To get that finish, and it's going to cost them more, or they could be apprehensive. But instead, the GC could be saying, you know what? Again, leadership. You could be telling the architect, and we've done that many times. I hear you, and here's a better way of doing it, or not a better. Don't even use that word. But here's another way. What do you think? Because many times the contractor has done it a lot more times. So it's the ego. It's somebody feeling that they are less than the other. It's how we communicate also, because the communication is huge. It's everything. How we deliver what we think, it's like 90%.
So it's interesting because in our design process, we have put in our contracts 3 points where the contractor has to be part of our process. So there's at the very beginning, right? That's where the client, we have to start vetting who you want to build this, and they preliminary. But then by the time we get into construction documents, that contractor has to be at the table with all the engineers and the design team, because that's where the collaboration happens before the big dollars get spent. So we kind of help that process earlier on, because we've just seen how successful, or it's not that problems won't happen even with that, but it eliminates a lot of the problems.
You said the right word, collaboration. And that's huge.
Yeah.
There's you build a contract, even if the word is not in the contract, it's a collaborative process.
Yeah.
earlier before you even give a price. So there's buy-in from everyone. So now the contractor already gave his input. So he was taking into consideration, or her input into consideration, the architect too. They discussed. Now they are a team, and that is huge. There's organizations that have that as part of their systems, like the Army Corps of Engineers. You know, they have that process.
Yeah.
And now it's changing even more, which I'll have another video about that. But now it's gonna, because look, even if there's a lawsuit and the owner wins, or they don't pay the contractor, or the contractor loses their company, which is typically what happens, nobody really wins.
Right.
You lose money, because by the time all of this is said and done, everybody lost.
Yeah.
So I think there's an opportunity for our industry to change, and I really believe that it needs to go from the transaction. It's only to transcend that, change of consciousness. So we have time to look at the questions in chapter 5. Are you guys having fun?
Yeah.
This is very nourishing.
Yes.
And you guys are doing great on this is not rehearsed.
No.
No. But it's so funny because we've been I've been doing this for 22 years now, so I've been building my business for that long, but it's always good to wait, it's good, but can it be better? Where, what are you doing better than us? Like, what are ideas that we haven't even thought of? So that's what I'm enjoying, actually. Just kind of wait, take a moment and assess the good.
Yeah.
And see if it can be even better.
From everybody's eyes, right?
Yeah.
Because we are not in each other's worlds all
Right.
the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. So the first question is,
What are your core values and how do they influence your business decisions? How do you want to do this? Silently?
no, we can, how much time do we have?
We're about 10 minutes.
So let's practice, let's say, so what are your core values? We just can talk about an example. And we all know what core values are. But maybe you can talk about a principle or a core value that at some point in time in a business experience, you understood that it was going to be compromised, and you made a decision to go this way or that way because this is, I can't compromise that. Or you made a decision because it's aligned with my values. You were talking about that at the beginning.
Yes, I think one of the things that we in our business we try to is accountability, right? Submittals are a very big part of a supplier's life, and sometimes verbally we are told something, and we're in many OACs where verbally things change. We provide submittals, or we resubmit submittals, and sometimes those submittals don't go exactly as the conversations happen. And there was one instance where I submitted something that wasn't exactly how we talked about on the OAC, and I had the choice, because they signed the submittals. I had the choice to say, well, you signed it, so that's the way it is, or admit, yes, we did talk about it, I messed it up. You didn't catch it, I didn't catch it. Nobody caught it. We could have both caught it, and that didn't happen. So that happened, and that served me right, because I admitted the mistake. I ended up obviously eating the cost of the change, but it earned me a long-term relationship. So that it may not have happened that way, and I wasn't counting on the long-term relationship, but I believe our brand would have suffered more than just a couple hundred or thousands of bucks. At that point, yes.
And let me tell you, congratulations.
Yeah.
Because not everybody does that.
Right.
And that's the type of culture that you have built in your business.
Yeah.
And you're trying to influence the industry with that example. And you're right, it builds you a long-term client.
Yeah.
Because the client probably experienced somewhere else something else. Because by you saying yes, now the client didn't have that problem with their clients.
Absolutely. So that I had a choice. I had the choice. We had the submittal signed, so we said no, we'll take care of it. We'll figure it out. Yeah. And then our brand didn't suffer too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the client didn't suffer.
Yeah.
So it shows your commitment to the client.
Right. And to the project, the success of the project. Because at the end, we want the project to be successful. If we want to put our names on a project, we want to make sure that that project is successful. So that was important to us. So.
Courageous decision.
Painful too.
Yeah.
But it was good. It was
Yeah.
How about you?
So one of our core values is just to handle everything professionally, not from an emotional standpoint, even though that, emotions creep in, but at the end of the day, just to show it professionally and to, like, we always have our team's back. So even if the team messes up, the buck stops with me and I take responsibility for that. And I know that my team, like, they thank us for that, right? They appreciate that. And, that's a core value of ours, and I just see how it goes both ways. Oh yeah, because you teach, just like you held accountability for that situation. Your team sees, and they will, the next time around, they will step up because you're doing it. So it's the same when my team feels respected and that I have their back. They, they take bigger risks. They do things, and I've just seen it be beautiful in our team.
Excellent.
Yeah.
They model what we do.
Yeah.
Just like our kids. They model what they see us doing, not what we tell them.
Yeah.
The next one.
In your experience, how do customer-induced changes affect project timelines? And what practices have you implemented to manage these changes without compromising the schedule?
Ours is communication. Just everything is black and white. So it's kind of like, hey, this decision is going to add 2 weeks to your project. That's going to affect time, budget, and all that. Are we in all agreement? Perfect.
I think customer-induced, we had one today. Submittals were signed, and they had a meeting yesterday, changed the colors of the polls, and the submittals were signed, orders were in. And then, obviously calling the factories at that point and moving the process to make sure that things don't change, but it is going to delay a process and there's a margin for error there. So yes, we'll communicate, we'll do everything we can, but there will be a margin for error. We'll do everything we possibly can, but advising them that as much as we can do it.
Is that in writing?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're dealing with people that we don't always control. So the trickling down of the communication is not always going to be under our control. So behaving that way and making sure that we tell them 100% we'll do whatever we can, but it's not always up to us.
Yeah.
And that's in writing.
And that's in writing.
Because that person leaves and they change,
Yeah.
and now they forget, they have amnesia, and then you're unprotected.
Yeah, no, submittals have to be redone, but by the time they sign them, right, I don't know if it's too late into the process. So let's move everything along and be fast, but we'll figure out if we can do it at the end.
Yeah.
So not over promising, but always trying to over deliver.
Yeah.
And this is an owner change or an architect or a designer change?
Oh, it's a color change, so it would have been an owner change or design.
The owner just said, no, I don't like that color.
They said the poles need to be now white, and also fixtures not to be white. So it's
maybe
3 factors involved.
So maybe somebody didn't coordinate properly at the beginning, and that's what happens, right? The problem is that delay, who pays for it?
Right.
Yeah.
Even if there's not an obvious cost, that delays, who pays for it?
Mm-hmm.
So I am going to end this here. We have a few more questions, but get the book.
Yes.
Take that homework. There's a lot more questions, and I invite you to have that conversation with people that you know. And how do we do it better? Like you were saying, the more people we can add to the conversation, the better off we can make our companies, and the experience that we provide our clients and the experience that we provide the people that are in our team, it can be so much better. Our own experience. You know what? I like to sleep well.
Yeah.
And I wake up sometimes. That's why I meditate a lot. And I would say that the more plan we have and less of these unknowns that could be controlled, the better experience. And the more money, the more profit and less risk we're gonna have. So thank you for being here. And I hope you scale your business and you safeguard profit and find a way to manage risk in a way that it doesn't cost you any a penny. Have a successful company. Thank you.